Well, I wrote every night of my life to Sam, and he was still in Australia at the time, and I was getting letters from him, but the letters that he sent to me were censored so that sometimes I could hardly make them out because he'd say, "Dear Audrey, I am," and a big cutout, and then "I hope to be," a big cutout.
Let me explain that to you a little bit about why they did this. Uh, every letter that you wrote had to go before a censor board, and they read those letters before they put them in the mail to ship them home. And the reason they did that is because they were afraid that we were going to say things to our families that would be, if the enemy got a hold of the mail, they would have clues of where we were or what we were planning to do, and it would be detrimental to us for the troops.
Well, let me tell
So
you.
consequently, what they would do is they would take a razor blade and cut out that part of the letter which would indicate, some information to the enemy. Like, for example, I would be writing to Audrey and I'd say, "Dear Sweetie Pie, here we are, we're sitting in Brisbane, Australia." Well, they didn't want anybody to know where the 32nd Infantry Division was, so they'd cut that out. And I'd say, "I hate this army because I can't see you anymore," and they'd cut that out. They wouldn't want that to go. So by the time she got a letter, like she said, it looked like a sieve. "Dear Audrey," and then down below, "Love, Sam." There wasn't anything in between.
But let me tell you what he did do, and it confused the living daylights out of me. But he sent me a letter in code telling me that he was being shipped out of Australia and going to some island. And the way he did that was he wrote it in code, and he said, "Dear Audrey, well, I'll be taking one of those things that your dad builds." My daddy was in the shipbuilding industry. And I guess I will have other activities. That meant he was going to go into battle, but I didn't really. When I received this letter from him, nothing was cut out, and I thought, there's something wrong with this, or there's something wrong with him, because not any of this is making sense. Then he says, "Oh, by the way, I heard that Adelaide, which is where he was stationed, and we both had a friend named Adelaide, is leaving her husband." Well, that meant he was telling me he was leaving Adelaide. And
Adelaide was a big city in Australia.
And she's taken with her one of those things that your dad builds. That meant he was
going on a ship.
But it took me about 2 weeks to go through this letter and find out just exactly what he was trying to tell me.
I know, Eric, the letter you're talking about, and I said, Uncle Briss has announced his banns of marriage to somebody else, and that Briss bands. That's where I was going to Brisbane. So if they could look at the map, they could pick out some town sort of thing. But anyway.
But that's how I got wind of, because every night when I come home from work, I'd read that letter to try to understand what he was trying to.
And your dad helped you do
yes.
the decoding.
So we finally got it all.
Got the maps out.
And then is when he went to New Guinea.
Well, let me tell you a little of something about what happened to us when we got into Brisbane, Australia, which was a jumping off point for us to go to the island of New Guinea. We were in this town of Brisbane, which was the third largest city in Australia, had around about 3 million people. We were bivouacked out in a wooded area. And I guess we were there for around about maybe 60 days or 30 days. And they took 200 of us, and they gave us commando training. The Australians gave us commando training. Well, while we were camped out in the woods, all of a sudden they start making us clear out areas and put up volleyball courts and put up basketball courts and fashion a tennis court. And Mrs. Roosevelt, the wife of the president, was going to come to Brisbane, Australia, and pay a visit to the American soldiers. So here we get all of this work done over a period of about a week's time, put up all of the nets and get it all cleared out. We didn't play basketball, we didn't play tennis, but we were fixing the courts and all. So when Mrs. Roosevelt came with her entourage, 4 or 5 cars, all they did was drive through the roads, went through the camp, didn't stop, and after they got through going all around the camp, looking at the nice things that the American soldiers had to play with and do with whatever they're going to do with, play basketball or tennis or what have you. When Mrs. Roosevelt left, she never ever stopped, and when her entourage left the area, they made us pick up everything, put it in boxes, and put it up. And it was just a sham to pretend like, oh, we had all this stuff to play with.
Because you see, the news was with it too.
That's right. All of the news cameras were with it,
newsreels.
following around, you know. And another thing too that was very bad, when we went to the movies, the first thing they would show, of course, was before the movie started, they'd show you the picture of the King of England, and they would play their national anthem. Then they would show the Prime Minister of Australia and the Australian flag, and they played the national anthem for the Australians. Then who do you think they showed up on our screen when they played the Star-Spangled Banner? They had a picture of MacArthur, the general. Well, we didn't want MacArthur, we wanted the American flag. That's what we wanted. We didn't honor him like they honored the King of England and the people of Australia. So we wrote to our senators and said, hey, get that goofball pictures off the screen and put the American flag up. And they did. The senators got a hold of that guy and said, no way. And this is the type of man he was. Oh, he was something else. He was strictly a showman. But anyway, then from there, we broke camp and headed for the islands.
And that's when I started to pray. Because I knew by the letter that I had received that I couldn't, that was in code, I couldn't decide. I knew that he was going into harm's way. I just had a feeling that this was it. And I prayed every night for his safe return. And in one night, I had a dream that he was wounded. And he kept saying to me, but I'm coming back, I'm coming back, I'm coming back. And since through the years we've compared notes about the time that he was wounded, and it was just about that time that I had that dream. And the dream shook me up, but yet that his repeating, I'm coming back, gave me the incentive to hold on. And I did receive a telegram saying that he was missing in action.